None of them said that you are RCP.
I turned down, I did not go to one. How are you? Sorry to see you. How you doing? I ought to go.
Lion.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah.
We'll begin our work session. Just a couple housekeeping items. If you haven't been in the building yet, the restrooms are through the double doors and to the left. We have 4 restrooms, so an improvement from what we usually meet. City Clerk is home, not feeling well, so she's watching on the WebEx, but there's a clerk issue. We just hollered, hopefully she can answer that. We are live streaming. We do have some folks that wanted to join the meeting remotely. So hopefully all of that is working and Seth has that under control. So we're going to try to do this at this facility and hopefully everything will work very smoothly. So I will go over the items on the consent agenda. As we've been doing, I'll remind you of our vision statement and mission statement and core values that you adopted earlier in the year. That we will be a vibrant multi-generational community that incorporates small town charm and heritage with an entrepreneurial spirit, is your vision statement. So the items on the consent agenda, there are 6 items. If you had an earlier version of the agenda packet, it may not have included the 6th item on the consent agenda, but I believe we passed out the updated agenda with that new item. And I apologize if you're in the back and can't hear. We don't have microphones yet. That's the next step. So when we're speaking, just everybody make sure you speak loudly enough so that we can hear, and hopefully the audience can hear. And we're wearing masks, so that makes it more difficult. Yes. But we will soldier on. So the items on the consent agenda. The first item is the adoption of the regular meeting minutes from your November 2nd regular meeting. The second item, similarly, is approval of the workshop minutes from your special meeting workshop on November the 16th. Item 3 is more of a housekeeping item. Since we have a new finance director, we are required to appoint our new finance director, Langston Ramsor, as the finance officer, which is a separate legal designation than the finance director. But that is to keep us in good standing with the North Carolina Local Government Budget and Fiscal Control Act. Item 4 is adoption of a resolution establishing the regular meeting dates for the Belmont City Council for 2021. This schedule does keep our practice of meeting on the first Monday of each month, but instead of meeting at City Hall, we'll meet in this building as long as we're under COVID restrictions, because City Hall is just not big enough for us to meet in right now. And instead of starting the meeting at 6:45, we're recommending moving that to 6 p.m. So that's a change of location to this building instead of City Hall, and from 6:45 p.m. start time to 6 o'clock start time. And then that would be beginning in January. And then item 5 on the consent agenda is appointment of elected officials to boards and committees. Earlier in the year, you sort of changed the committee structure for the Public Works Committee, Water and Sewer Committee, Public Safety Committee, and those are basically committees of the full council now, and we have those business items at your workshop on the second meeting of each month. But there still are some external boards and committees like the Central Carolina Council of Governments, Gaston, Cleveland, Lincoln, NPO, Keep Belmont Beautiful. So those are in your packet. I've just provided you with the current 2020 list of who is on what committee. But if there are any changes to that, we can talk about that in just a moment. And then item 6 on the consent agenda is acceptance of an annexation petition for the Smith properties that are on South Point Road at Bellwood. They're applying for annexation of the city limits, and then they'll apply for their initial zoning or rezoning for official zoning for development program, development plan. But this is the first step. So I don't know that we've had an annexation this year. So for those of you that haven't gone through the process, we do it in a 3-month process, and it's spelled out in the general statute. So the first item of business is to accept the application, and then to instruct the city clerk to investigate the sufficiency of the application. She'll do that over the course of this month if you approve this item. Bring that back to you in January, and you will then schedule the public hearing for the February meeting. So there's a public hearing for the annexation. The annexation is separate from the zoning, separate from the development plan. It's just whether or not to incorporate that land into the city limits or not. So all you're doing tonight is starting that process by accepting the application and authorizing the clerk to investigate. And just for reference, these are the 4 properties involved. We've been collectively referring to as the Smith properties. These were the subject of a workshop you had probably in August regarding the traffic signal for the new middle school. The new Belmont Middle School is on the left of the screen. The Smith properties, there's I believe 1 house on the property, and the rest is undeveloped. And it borders back to the Smith Cemetery. They're on Bellwood Drive. So they are requesting to be annexed into the city limits, and then if annexed, then they will have a development plan that would then reroute that Bellwood Drive to connect to the traffic signal. So this is the first step in that.
So the annexation has to occur first before they can come with the development plan?
So there's still some issues with the development plan that we're working out with the property owner and the developer, but the goal would be to have the public hearing for the annexation at the same council meeting that we have a public hearing for the zoning change.
So that would mean the plan would go before the planning board in January?
That is our goal, yes.
And they are open to allowing that land to be used for the traffic?
Yes.
signal?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Our planning director has been very steadfast in that requirement.
They also fall under the overlay or 3 units per acre?
Don't think they're.
Yeah, the property do not.
But I believe they're under 3 units per
They
acre.
don't know that. That's the zoning part of it. It's not related to the annexation. Well, we'll send that out when that gets ready for the planning board. So back on the council, so those are the items for the consent agenda. Are there any recommended changes to the boards and committees for council for 2021?
Yeah,
That list is on page 24 of your packet.
so my availability for Keep Belmont Beautiful is gonna be limited to about half. So I would be better suited to be the alternate as opposed to the primary, if you wanna switch.
That'll be fine.
Okay, but I can still attend this on a limited basis, even more limited, I guess.
So switch and have Councilwoman Stowe be the member for Keep Belmont Beautiful, and then Councilman Tripp as the alternate. Everybody else good with their committee assignments? That's all that I have for the consent agenda. We do have some recognitions that we'll do after we do the invocation and pledge and before the consent agenda.
I have a question about the meeting dates.
Yes.
Since we're intending, I think, to continue doing the workshops, which for the record I think work really well, would it make sense to include those meetings on here, just to simplify like the notice procedures? And I think it also gives us some additional flexibility with the agenda if they're regular meetings.
We can certainly add that. You're required by statute to have a resolution adopting the regular meeting minutes and regular meeting time and place. And technically, the workshops are special meetings, so they're not required to have this, but we can put them all on that same sheet. We can amend the resolution. So our meeting schedule for workshops is the 3rd Monday of each month at 4 o'clock in this room from now on, well, for the foreseeable future. So we could amend that resolution to include those dates. We just put them underneath the regular meeting. We'll have a special meeting if that's satisfactory. And that way it's sort of one and done. Everybody knows what the
Yeah, I just think that might
main
make
calendar.
sense unless somebody else feels differently.
So we'll need to make that motion to amend when we get into regular.
When we do the consent agenda. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Good point.
Along with the change to the Keep Belmont Beautiful.
Yes.
What's the Wi-Fi password? Seth, what's the Wi-Fi password?
It is the word talk, talkish, hyphen. And then another 40, another hyphen. And then the word planet, all caps. I did like planet first.
Belmont was taken, huh?
We didn't want to broadcast what the Wi-Fi password was, so we made it really hard. Now it's
On the record now. Yes, that's okay.
We'll change it right after the meeting. So that's all that I have for the consent agenda.
Very good. So let's go ahead and call our meeting to order.
Well, let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the blessings you've bestowed on us as we head towards the end of a very difficult and trying year. We pray that 2021 is a better year than 2020, and that we continue to stay healthy and prosper as a city, and we look forward to better days ahead in your name. We ask these things. We also pray for all those that we have lost this year. We ask this in your name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That brings us to recognitions and acknowledgements. Chief Hawkins, you have several new police officers we'd like to introduce. We also want to congratulate you on your Kalia award. That's great.
Yeah. We're very excited, thank you. There's my mic. I guess I better come back up here.
Yeah.
Get your.
That's how I was gonna do that in just a minute, if you want us to go ahead and just cover all this stuff. So it's been a long time since we've been up here, and we have some old faces in new positions, and then we have some new faces, but because of COVID and everything, we haven't been able to really talk about it and have people up here. So we want to take tonight, I'm going to try to run through this very quickly. I have several groups, but we're going to move them in and move them out. But before I do that, I want to thank, because none of this stuff is possible, one, without the council, mayor, the manager, all the other department heads. I feel like they've been very welcome. Next month will be 4 years since I come to Belmont. It's hard to believe, but we've had a lot of things going on, and I've had a lot of help from everyone here, and I do appreciate that. Even Deborah. We appreciate that, Deborah. At this time, I would like to recognize our command staff, if I could have them come forward just real quick. I think it's just important for the citizens and our city leaders to know who leads the police department and kind of, where they are and what they're about. Don't get close to them. Adrian's backing us
Slide away, too.
Of course, maybe I've been around for just a little while, but this is Corky Falls, Boys Falls, but we all know him as Corky. He is the assistant chief, and Corky has over 25 years experience. Captain Jason Davis here, and Corky had been with Belmont back 20-something years ago. That's where he started his career, actually. So he's been around for a while and left, went to other places. Jason Davis has been in law enforcement for 28 years, and he's been very instrumental. He is the administrative captain of the Belmont Police Department. Captain Todd Davis, he is actually the one that's not real smart. He retired from the North Carolina Highway Patrol last year and decided to come to work with us. So he is actually our captain who heads up the patrol division, and so obviously he has over 30 years of experience. And again, I don't know why, he must just really like us or like Belmont. So we appreciate it, but I appreciate everything they do, and you'll see them coming back up here for some other things too. So I'm sorry, I left out the most important guy, Arthur Pullen, which y'all get to see a lot. Arthur does a lot. He's a lieutenant on patrol, plus he oversees code enforcement as well. So he actually had a medical procedure and could not be here tonight. So Arthur has been in law enforcement for 15 years. A great asset to us. We have between all of us, we have over 127 years of law enforcement experience. So I feel very, very confident in our command staff. So thank you, guys. Next, if we can next is our sergeants. I was going to do this quickly, but I didn't know if Buchanan was going to be leading us up here.
He's running.
Is that a run? Is that a sprint?
I'm smiling.
distance away from us. We like y'all, but that's it. So, first in the group here, this is Sergeant Alan Buchanan, and he oversees our community unit. You see him, he heads up all the events and does a lot. Just finished up with the rooftop, cops on the rooftop for the kids. Raised over $6,000, and Alan is very instrumental in overseeing that. So that's where we raised the money to take the kids shopping. So it's an awesome thing. So thank you, Alan. He's been with Belmont Police Department for 15 years. Sergeant Black comes from Cramerton Police Department, has over 15 years experience. He is a sergeant of our detective bureau. I don't know why he has a uniform on. I've never seen him in a uniform, but he looks good in it. So, but he's done a great job for us. Sergeant Harold Paul, he's got about 150 years in law enforcement. I think. He's been around City of Gastonia and Gaston County Sheriff's Office and come to us several years ago. Sergeant T.J. Green, he has been in law enforcement about 7 years. He came with me from Cherryville Police Department. I hired him there, and then he decided he wanted to come to Belmont. Sergeant Matt Stroop has been in Belmont about 17 years. He's a sergeant. All these guys are those guys are patrol sergeants. Sergeant Mark Tucker has been with Belmont Police Department about 5 years. Mark was in law enforcement back in the 80s. Decided he wanted to make some real money doing heat and air, but he came back because he loved law enforcement. So, as I said, community unit, detective bureau, and these guys are our patrol sergeants, and they do a great job for us. So, appreciate you guys. Thank you. And if you will, I know you can see your face, but you're going to your therapy. Thank you. All right, can you have the corporal? Military guys, they all so the first corporal introduced here is Valverde, and Valverde has been with us about 4 years now, and he is a patrol corporal. Mike Fussell, he came to us from Shelby Police Department not too long ago. He has 15 years in law enforcement. Mr. Richard Lorenz is from Leland Police Department. He's been in law enforcement about 4 years. Trey Clinton, promoted as a fresh off the press last week. So he came from Gastonia Police Department, has 5 years of law enforcement experience. And then we have Cody Willett. Cody's down here. Cody is our poster child. If you see the videos and everything, he's our traffic guy. We'll be recognizing him for something later. But Cody is, the first four are patrol corporals. Cody is the corporal over the traffic division and the K-9 unit. And I'm sorry, a few sales over the K-9 unit. Sorry about that. We took that away from Cody. Thank you guys. If you will turn around and face them, I know they can't see your face, but. Thank you. Now if we could have our new hires come in, guys, y'all can do this minute. Our new hires, these kind of been spread out. Some of them may have been here for a little while, but again, we hadn't introduced anybody since like March, so. This is the scary crowd right here. All right, starting down on this end here, Tristan Buchanan, he actually is brand new. He just started out, he's coming from the Gaston County Sheriff's Office. And help me remember your experience, the years. 3.5 years. All right, he has 3.5 years of experience coming from the Gaston County Sheriff's Office. Avon Guffey could not be here tonight. He's another guy. He comes from Gastonia Police Department. He come to us within the last few months, and he's decided to get married, not be here tonight. So he's off getting married. Travis Jones, next right here, if you just raise your hand. He's come to us from Mount Holly Police Department. How many years of service do you have? 9 years of service come to us from Mount Holly Police Department. Blake Farmer, raise your hand here. Blake come to us from Framerton Police Department. And how many years? 4 years of service. And Mr. Dunlap, fresh out of rookie school, just passed last week. And I gotta say, he is actually the first person since I've been here that we've been able to actually send to BLET. So we were really excited to be able to pick Mr. Dunlap up, and I think he will do us a great job here. Matt Sherrill. Matt, raise your hand here. Matt is actually a detective, and he don't take no pictures to show his face. Matt is actually our computer forensic detective. We hired him straight into the Detective Bureau. He comes with 15 years of experience from Gastonia Police Department. Then we have Mr. Scott White here. He is actually our training coordinator. He come to us with 15 years from the Gaston County Sheriff's Office. So we have, we're very fortunate of the staff we've been able to hire here, and if we can keep these two away from each other, we're in good shape, because they actually grew up together, were in the Marines, got in law enforcement, so they kind of followed each other, which is scary. So I had to get them as a package deal, I guess, right? All right, thank you guys. If y'all turn around to the Sealer and Kimball, but y'all might want to get out before they get. Everybody just kind of sits still. We got dogs coming in.
They want to one shelter.
Yeah. Watch out, Shelly. Don't grab the dog by the ear. I hope nobody has anything illegal. Okay. Well, we're really excited. As I told you, Mr. Fusell comes from Shelby Police Department, has a lot of experience with canines, and he's helping us with our program here as a corporal, and we appreciate that. Preston Steeler, he's been with Belmont Police Department for several years, and he's been a canine officer with us for kind of, he had an injury and had to go out for a little bit, but he's back with us on that. And then Mr. Kimball was just selected and just actually finished. I wanted to recognize both of these guys. Their dogs, they go through intensive training and to be certified. And what's through, they're certified through who?
That's the PCA.
Okay. So they had to be certified. These guys both just received their certification. So I want to recognize them tonight. And you can turn around and face the crowd there and keep your dog under control and don't let them get me. Very proud of both of these guys for working these dogs and with Fusell for helping them. So there's a lot of work that goes into it, and it's constant training every month. So thank you guys. Be dismissed. Okay. As I was sending out an email for Veterans Day, it really got my attention of all the military veterans we have in our police department, and I thought that it would be great to have them up here. And it's a good crowd out of our staff here of military personnel. And I'll just call them off real quick. They get in here and get settled. Just raise your hand when I call your name. So, all right, Captain Todd Davis, United States Navy. Aaron Thompson, United States Marine Corps. Mark Reed, United States Army. Valverde, United States Navy. Scott White, United States Marine Corps. We have another one that's undercover detective vice agent, and he's the United States Army, but I'm not going to say his name or he's not here. Blake Farmer, United States Marine Corps. Mark Tucker, United States Army. James Reagan, United States Air Force. Matt Sherrill, United States Marine Corps. Mike Fusell, United States Army. Sam Dunlap Jr., United States Army. And I am extremely proud, not just to have them as officers, but as veterans that served our country. And I think our city should be very proud that we have such qualified people and that they served our country in many ways. So if y'all would turn and face the crowd there, thank you guys. Thank you. It's hard to get like Marines and Army, all these people never got fighting, so, because they all are better than each other. So that's the, you can hear the conversations within the organization from these groups. All right, the last team I want to introduce is our CLIA team. I know it's something that we've talked about, and Mayor brought up, so if you could have the CLIA team come in, please. And then I'll let Tyler. Get this air conditioning. All right, if y'all, all of you have heard us talk about in the CLIA, and we finally are accredited as of last month. We're very excited about that. And once we signed the contract, we completed it within 6 months, and it was they gave us 3 years to complete that. So this is the team that was put together, and we have 131 policies. This is what CLIA is about, 131 policies, and we have 459 standards. And what that means is for every policy, we have standards in those policies that we have to meet. You can't just say we have a policy on pursuits or we have a policy on canines. You have to prove that you have that policy, and you have to show proofs for each one of them and how you accomplish each one of those policies. So it's a very intense thing to have all those standards in each policy. These guys come together as I've been threatening my life on numerous occasions, because I'll give them a deadline and then I'll move it back 2 or 3 weeks. And so they've done a great job. Everyone in the organization has done a great job, but these folks here have really jumped in there and pulled it off very quickly. So we have Tyler Graham, who is now our park manager. Not in the parks out there, but closing out. We have Lindsay. As y'all know, Lindsay just come in, and what I've done is we're cross-training Lindsay and Tyler in the code enforcement and CLIA, so we always have a succession plan. Then we have Bill Carroll, who is a trader and left us for other stuff, so he was very instrumental in helping us with that. Assistant Chief Falls, Captain Davis, Aaron Black, Mark Reed, Cody Willett, who's that guy right there? Alan Buchanan, Todd Davis. So this group right here has been really instrumental in moving forward in professionalism that these folks have shown, to not only to take care of the standards they need to do to make this happen, but also to lead other people and to help them understand that it was a benefit, not something you have to do, but something we need to do and we want to do. And this group pulled it off and kept everyone encouraged, everyone was excited. I've been other places where we try to get through this process and it was pretty painful. So this one was actually a lot smoother. So thank you for that, and turn around and face the crowd and all right. Thank you. Cody, would you come back 1 second? I'll go ahead and take care of this real quick. So one of the other things, this year we actually won the Mothers Against Drunk Driving Award. And a lot goes into that for the DWI checkpoints, keeping up with the stats, reporting to the state. We actually received a new officer this year, a DWI off that grant. And Cody has been very instrumental in keeping up with all the paperwork that goes with it, reporting to the state. It's always fun, right, Cody? So Cody has done a great job saying, but but we did receive the Mothers Against Drunk Driving Award from the state this year. We were selected, so we're really excited about that. Cody, thank you. All right, and so the council, I know some of you were here, some of you not, but some of the things that I was challenged with and the goals and objectives coming in is, one, to get us fully staffed, and also communication, reporting, so that you see reports of what we're doing in the police department. That was some of the goals that you set forward for me. Also, to check and make sure that we're doing what we should within the organization, and to do surveys to make sure that the organization is running as it should. We actually just conducted our second survey. We're going to try to do one at least every 2 years, maybe every year. But Tyler's just going to real quickly go over the survey, because I think it's really important. If our staff is not happy or somewhat happy, then we're not going to be successful. And so he's going to go over just real quick. This is something the council asked for early on, and we worked on. So Tyler, if you would briefly just go over that.
Council Mayor, this is our survey results from the 2020 Belmont PD. I am given a real opportunity to improve my skills working for the Belmont Police Department, and as you see, the vast majority of our department either strongly agreed or agreed with that. The next was, I feel encouraged to come up with new and better ways of doing things. There again, agree and strongly agree. Reached almost 90%. 2020, part of the employee survey. My work gives me a feeling of personal accomplishment, and we had 60% that strongly agreed, 35% that did agree with that statement. The next was, I know what is expected of me on the job. 70% strongly agreed, 28% agreed. When needed, I'm willing to put in the extra effort to get the job done, and as you see, the vast majority of it agreed or strongly agreed with that statement. My workload is reasonable. We had 42% strongly agreed, 44% agreed. My training needs are assessed, 58% strongly agreed, 33% agreed. My talents are used well in the workplace, 51 strongly agreed, 40% agreed. I received the training needed to perform my job well, 67% strongly agreed, and 26% agreed. I have confidence in my direct supervisor. We had 63% that strongly agreed, 23% agreed, and 12 that were neutral. I get helpful feedback from my direct supervisor on a regular basis. And as you can see there, we had 37% agree and 42% strongly agree. During the past year, I have significantly enhanced my skills. We had 56% agree, 37% strongly agree. I see a lot of opportunities to grow within the Belmont Police Department. 33% agree and 51% strongly agree. My supervisor has sincere interest in my career. 53% strongly agree, 30% agreed, and 14% were neutral. My salary is fair and competitive. 37% strongly agreed, 44% agreed, 12% neutral. There is good cooperation between my division and other divisions. The 40% strongly agreed, 44% agreed. And this is one I thought was really important. I believe the Belmont Police Department is headed in the right direction. And as you can see, 81% of the department strongly agree with that statement. And the other 16% agree. I get regular updates on the direction of the department and how it's going. 49% agree and 33% strongly agree. I feel respected and valued. As you can see, 35% agree, 56% strongly agree. I will probably be working for the Belmont Police Department 3 years from now. 77% was very likely, and I just want to point out the very unlikely was Connie Cobb, who retires at the end of the month.
Yeah, so what he said, there's this is civilian and sworn officer as well. In some positions, like civilian, where it says I have an opportunity to go anywhere, it's really that position. So some of these answers, we probably need to learn them a little better.
How satisfied are you with the recognition you received for doing a good job? 49% very satisfied, and 33% satisfied, and 16% were neutral. How satisfied are you with your job? It was 67% very satisfied, and 33% satisfied. And then how satisfied are you with the opportunity to change job roles within the organization? 35% very satisfied, 37% satisfied, and then you have that 26% neutral, which, like the chief said, that is because some positions, there's not that opportunity to move if you're civilian or vice versa. How satisfied are you with the opportunities for ongoing professional development? And as you can see, very satisfied and satisfied is the majority. How satisfied are you with the training you received for your current job? And it's 63% for very satisfied and 30% for satisfied. How satisfied are you with current salary or wage? 28% very satisfied and 51% satisfied and 14% neutral. Considering everything, how satisfied are you with the Belmont Police Department? 63% were very satisfied and 37% were satisfied. And then this is where they indicated whether they were sworn or civilian. So you see the makeup there of the department. And then 41% of our employees are supervisors, whether that's just one person or some supervise up to 6 people, or you have the administration supervise more than that. And then please indicate how long you have worked for the Belmont Police Department. As you can see, our majority is in that 1 to 4 year window, but then the others are the ones that have been here 5 to 9 years. That's the conclusion.
Thank you, Cal.
Yes.
Yes, and with that, this is totally anonymous. They do it through, we didn't use Survey Monkey this year. We used
Question, bro.
question process. So it's completely anonymous. People are free to answer. We don't know who answers the questions or how they're going to answer them. So we were very, very pleased with that. There's been a lot of work happening over the last 4 years, and I'm extremely proud of the police department, proud of the city and the direction we're headed. And I would put our staff up against any that I know.
Well, I'd just like to say, I appreciate what you've done and what your staff has done as far as getting things on the right track. I really appreciate that, because police work's tough work. It really is. A lot of times it's a thankless job, but we really appreciate you and what you've done and your department's done. Thank you for all you do. I think we need to give them a big hand.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. All right, that brings us to another recognition that we have. There's 2 plaques we're going to get for people that are retiring. First we have on the list is Dave Eisenhower. Dave, you want to come up here? "23 years of service to the city of Belmont." And that's great. Fantastic. And I will tell you this, no matter what I call, or what time it is, it doesn't matter. Dave has always responded and given us an answer to help the city. And we appreciate what you've done all these years. It's just a tremendous job.
Thank you.
It's gonna be hard to find somebody to replace you.
Well, you got one, you sit back there.
Okay.
Good.
Bill.
Bill,
Bill
I'll
Carroll.
give you his phone number here shortly.
I'll need that. I can put it in my cell phone, yeah.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thanks so much. You want to say anything?
I do. First of all, I want to thank the council, all of you that have been supportive of Public Works and checking myself and the water plant, wastewater plant, water and sewer distribution, homes. I also want to thank personally each and every department head that's here tonight, that we work beside each and every one of you every single day. And the adage that you're only as good as the people you have around you speaks for you and the council. And with that, and I do want to thank one particular person. For 23 years, my bride, 43 years, since Thursday, Marlene, supported me all these years. And thank you, Marlene, for putting up with me and for putting up with parks too. So thank you all very much. It's been a very wonderful pleasure working with the
So
city.
you're gonna say she's a public works supporter, right?
She very much is. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Chuck's dad was on the council for a number of years, and I served with him, and I never forget the time I called Chuck out on a slow pitch softball game. Pitch was so pretty. You got mad.
Yeah, I got mad.
Yeah, I got mad.
March in softball, Charlie.
Yeah, I know. But it looked so good, I had to call it a strike, but anyway. But in recognition of Chuck Flowers for steadfast service to the city of Belmont for the past 32 years in the water department, you have done a tremendous job. And again, Chuck has always, whenever you call him, you need some help and stuff like that, he's always responded. And you can't ask for any more than that. Appreciate that. Chuck, if you'd like to say a few words.
I just want to reiterate, guys, I do appreciate the opportunity that this city, the council, the staff, the other department heads has afforded me all these years. And I'm going to go away from here, but I ain't going to go away from Belmont, so I'm going to keep my eye on y'all, so y'all keep this thing going in the right direction. I appreciate it. Thank you.
And now we'll proceed to our agenda. Let's get a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I would make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the following amendments to the list of,
Items.
well, to the appointment of elected officials to make Martha the main delegate to keep Belmont beautiful and Ryan the alternate, and to amend the resolution approving council meeting dates for 2021 to include the monthly workshops as well on the third Monday of each month.
All right, thanks, Jim.
I'll second that.
Got a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The consent agenda is approved. First item on our agenda that we have is public comment.
There's no one signed up to speak, Mayor.
Is good?
There's public comment, there's no one signed up to speak, and we have one person signed up for the public hearing on item 2.
Okay, very good. Thank you. If I can get my glasses unfogged, I'll be all right, I can see. All right, no one signed up for public comments, so that brings us to item number 2, a public hearing to consider amending Chapter 4 of the Land Development Code to increase the minimum side yard setbacks for single-family residential lots, resulting in additional space between houses. Shelley?
Thank you, Mayor. Just one moment, we're getting the presentation up for those in the audience.
I move to go into public hearing on,
I'll second.
this item.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. Okay.
Thank you. Mayor and council is ready to the record. This is a public hearing for text amendment 2020-05. This is a request to amend Chapter 4 of the Land Development Code to increase minimum side yard setback for detached single-family residential lots. Now, you can recall that this issue came up at a previous council meeting in which concern was voiced by council members regarding a subdivision located on Stowe Road. There's some concern about the distance between the houses during their development. So after that meeting, it was, well, I should say during that meeting, it suggested that we form a subcommittee to look at the issue. And so we developed a planning board subcommittee, discussed it with staff, and we thought the best approach would be to coordinate some neighborhood visits, some tours, and that was conducted on October 17th. Now, we went and we actually visited 6 different subdivisions. We chose the subdivisions based on lot sizes and housing types with the purpose of showing diversity, because we do pride ourselves in Belmont for choice in housing. So our tour included Laurel Walk, Belmont, Overlake, which is in McLean, Belmont Reserve, Glenmere, and Eagle Park. That tour included a survey that we asked all participants to participate in. And what we asked is, after touring the community, to identify 5 strengths that they found within the subdivision regarding the development, and identify 5 weaknesses. Based on the feedback we received, and it was quite diverse, we received some comments that there were some communities where they felt the homes were too close together, but in that same subdivision, we got a lot of comments back that it was very walkable. They liked the amenities, sidewalk on both sides. So it was interesting to review all the results. So what we did was we put together a proposed amendment that you're going to hear tonight. With that, we did also get additional information from 6 other municipalities. So we did do some comparison of other jurisdictions with the same product type and development. And what we came up with is we're proposing to amend the side yard setback with 2 lot types: the single-family detached alley lot and the single-family detached street lot, which means that you would access the garage from the frontage street. So currently, the ordinance requires a 20% side yard setback based on the lot width. Now, once this is calculated, it can be split evenly between 2 sides, or you can have a 0 setback on one side and apply the rest of the setback to the other side. So for this alley low type of lot, that would mean that a 6-foot side yard setback for these type of lots would be currently required. That, again, that could be split evenly with 3 feet on each side, or 0 on one side and 6 feet on the remaining side. We're proposing to keep the 20% lot width, or minimum of 5 feet, whichever is greater. That way, the side yard setback, if it is a wider lot, which should have a wider side yard setback, that 20% requirement would still remain. This would result in a minimum of 10 feet between each structure. With regard to the street load type of lot, currently, again, our side yard setback requirement is 20% of lot width. When we apply that to the current minimum standard, which is a 55-foot wide lot, that would be 5.5 feet on each side. We're proposing, again, to maintain the 20% of lot width, or a minimum of 6 feet, whichever is greater. That would result in a minimum of 12 feet between each structure. And again, if it's a larger lot, with regard to width, you would have larger setbacks. Now, one thing I will follow up on this is the 6-foot minimum. We worked in the comparison of other jurisdictions and put all the information into a table. And what we found is on front-loading lots, the setbacks vary, but the range kept you between 5 and 8 feet. So we felt that a 6-foot minimum would be appropriate, and then still keeping the 20%, so it would be proportional to the lot width. But you would always be guaranteed a minimum of 12 feet between structures. Looking at our comprehensive while maintaining the community character. The planning board approved this item at the November meeting and motioned and voted unanimously to recommend approval of the text amendment as presented to council here tonight. They also followed that with making the consistency finding at that meeting. So with that, we ask that you receive the planning board's recommendation to approve, except any public comment presented to you this evening. That concludes my report.
So you said you looked at some other comparable jurisdictions, and I believe that your results indicated that the current setbacks are on the narrow side compared to those other jurisdictions?
Just slightly, they vary from 5 feet up to 8 feet on front loading lots. Davidson was the only jurisdiction that maintained for an alley lot a minimum of 3 feet. Otherwise, they were 5 to 8 feet, depending on lot size.
I think we have Steve Henshaw here too. If anybody has any questions, we need to ask him. Anybody have anything else we need to add to this? No. We're good.
You said there was somebody listed for public comment?
Yeah, Steve Henshaw's here.
Okay.
Steve, do you have anything you want to say?
Sure, that regarding, we're not in the planning yet, though, right? Just regarding the setbacks?
Yes, he's here for another item.
He's
Oh,
here
okay.
for another-
Tonight.
Oh, you're here for another one?
Yes.
Well, we had item two.
You did receive 2 emails that I forwarded to you today, and I printed out on the dais here. One from Bob Clay and one from Madeline Peters. So
Yeah.
unless you want me to, I'll just let you read it. I won't read it out loud to you, but we'll just put it in the record.
Yeah, you can, if you want to read it, Avery, you can.
In it,
We'll just put it in the record as far as the.
We'll put it in the
public
record.
hearing.
Okay, we've got them, so.
I would add, just kind of mention, it seems like this issue, we kind of went the opposite way as far as getting community feedback. I'm not sure if that's a COVID-related issue or if that's just the direction we're heading, but over the past 10 years or so, it seems like we've done a better job of engaging the public on zoning changes. And so, it's fine with me, but is that kind of what we're doing now, is not doing the community input stuff? Or, I was just kind of curious, because that was one of the things that was pointed out in the letter, was that there wasn't a whole lot of community input.
When we took that tour, I think that had a lot to do with how we come up with the
Okay.
idea of spacing
Okay.
a little more.
That's fine, yeah, I just wanted to be clear.
And I
that
mean-
Usually, we can't even put a sidewalk in the yard without having 3 months' worth of community meetings, so.
I think part of it is the COVID part, because we waited to do that, we don't know what the timeframe might be. before
Okay.
even people do this.
But I'm sure that, there have, like certainly, one of the communities at issue is the community I live in, and there have been some concerns expressed by residents in my neighborhood on the neighborhood Facebook group about some of the setbacks between those houses and how narrow they are. And I'm sure that Martha likewise heard some.
I think the comment has been, it looks like we're trying to jam houses in that spot, and that's not the local law, and, as several of us have discussed, Ron Boat, one of our previous council members, always said to be aware of what you want the city to look like. And that's an issue if you're coming into a subdivision or into an area, you don't want it to feel crowded. We certainly have townhouse products available and that type of thing, and people want to have density, they can do that, as opposed to having houses so tight together.
I think, with the alley lots, going from 6 feet to 10 feet, that is something of a substantive change. I'm a little more concerned with the street lot. We're going from 11 feet to 12 feet. We've added 12 inches. We've added a foot. That's not a substantial change. And
You know, and I don't know that's really perceivable when you're looking at it. I mean, you know, in previous conversations, I had looked at a number of 15 feet between houses. I mean, and honestly, when you think about 15 feet, anyone who watches sports, you're looking at a free throw. You know, you're looking on both sides of the lane, four good-sized guys standing shoulder to shoulder. It's 15 feet. It's not a huge distance. You know, I'm a little uncomfortable with that 12-foot number, just me talking. It looks like we are taking action. We're not taking much action.
I would just point out, I mean, the concerns that I have heard expressed were more directed towards the alley loading lots. With the street loading lots, you're already looking at a minimum of 55 feet as opposed to 30 feet. So, you know, 20% of 55 obviously is going to be more than 20% of 30 right from the get-go. You know, I'm not a math major. I went to law school, so I wouldn't have to know math. But, you know, I would say it's almost twice as much. And the second thing I'd say is, you know, based on what planning staff looked at from other jurisdictions, we were a bit on the narrow side in terms of alley loading lots, but we are much closer to the consensus in terms of street loading lots, so there might not have been much more of a need to adjust as there was with the alley loading lots. So, you know, those would be my points for consideration in that regard.
And since I'm a math major, 20% of 55 feet is 12 feet, so that's exactly what, and so that's the math.
Well, 11.
11 feet.
Yeah, I'm saying,
Yeah.
Was there anything in particular that drove?
all right. I'm like a blue that one out. Yep, you're right, sorry.
Was there anything that drove the, I guess, selection of the 1 foot addition versus, because I think, I'm trying to remember what you said. I feel like you said the range was somewhere between 5 and 8 feet. So I think if we took it to Richard's 15-ish, that would be more around like 7 or 7.5.
But what it's related to is lot width. So those that did have an 8-foot lot width, their minimum lot width is greater than the city of Belmont. So it still works out to be proportional, 20-25% of the lot width. So the ones that did have an 8-foot, their minimum lot width may be 65 feet, whereas 55 feet.
Okay.
So, if you look at our minimum housing width, and when I compared it to some of the results that we received, most of the comments related to the building, the homes being too close, were related to alleys, roads, type of communities or Belmont Reserve, which is very compact. When we got out to McLean and Overlook, you know, those are all six-foot side yard setbacks. I got one comment out of everybody that was there regarding the houses feeling too tight, but again, the flip side of that, it's very walkable, very well connected. So there was pros and cons, but they seem to diminish when we went to communities that are already using the 6-foot setback.
Okay.
Communities are going to be just as walkable whether the houses are 10 feet apart or 15 apart. I mean, part of our code is curb yard and sidewalk. So, I mean, I don't think that's really, I mean, when somebody says something's walkable, the size of the structure, I don't think plays into it all. It's that we have made it walkable through our code and our requirements to have sidewalks.
Well, from the council member who can't carry their ones, carry twice here. One of the things I took note of, the Fox News information, the people who lived in the Laurel Walk area all were pleased. Well, that's because they bought there. If they weren't pleased, they would not have bought there to begin with. So I think the market, though, is very different from what it was 10 or 12 or years ago when we started looking at this. I think the fact that we're at least trying to visually separate the houses to me is the important part, because they've discussed that people don't use side yards anymore. They're not looking at the same kind of thing when we purchased here, and some of us as well. That 3/4 acre lot is not what you're looking at. So I think we've got to be reasonable, and I think this is a good, you know, mix as far as
Yeah.
now is a comp to people that purchase
Mhm.
in the community. And that's one thing that we did not include in our tours. We didn't really talk to the people that live in the community to get a little feel how they felt, what attracted them to the community. And so, it's, I guess from a planner's perspective, it's about choice. There is opportunity to buy homes in Belmont in a third acre or greater with very light side yard setbacks. There's also the opportunity to live in a compact community, which is a person's choice. And a house is a person's, probably the largest investment a person's going to make. And I think we do it very well, giving opportunity of housing at different price points and choice in housing types and lot types. So I think we do very well.
I'll make a motion to come out of public hearing.
Is there a second?
Good.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
You want to,
Well, Charlie, now that we're out of public hearing, we're going to be going into a motion. I mean, I'm going to go ahead and put the motion on the floor for the street lots, that we go from 12 feet to 15 feet.
I'll second.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
How many opposed? 3? Okay. All right. That brings us back to open that a public hearing.
Well, let me ask Parks a question then. The motion having been made, can we make a second motion?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I don't, well, I mean, I don't want to cut off discussion.
Well, the only discussion,
There's a motion on the floor before you discuss.
Okay, all right. I will move to approve the text amendment as presented as to both alley loading lots and street loading lots.
I'm second.
All in favor, say aye.
Now you have discussion.
Now we can have discussion. I don't want to cut off discussion.
well, the only thing I would add to that, this is why I made that motion, Belmont, in the 90s, we developed a really good code. A code that was so good to the extent that it was lauded and copied nationwide. We led in that regard. Last week, we were talking about leadership. And leadership on the Main Street Board, and how we wanted to push them to not just settle, but to lead in this region, in this community. And I don't disagree with that, but I don't think that has to be held to businesses and bars and events downtown. Everybody, when I say everybody, the bulk of the people that I talk to feel that these houses are too big and too close together. We're 12 feet to 15 feet. We're talking about adding 1.5 feet, 18 inches to each side yard setback. Doesn't seem like much to me. There's a reasonable distance between them. I look at this is an opportunity to lead on this issue, to increase the setbacks, to put these McMansions, push them back a little bit more because they're on these tiny lots. I feel confident that people are opposing this. Some people oppose this, possibly in the industry, because if Belmont does this, you could potentially see cascading effect throughout Gaston County. And there may be other councils that wanted to do this, but aren't doing it for whatever reason. And again, this could be an opportunity to once again lead in this area. But that's all I have to say. I mean, we're talking feet.
I guess I'd push back because it seems like a change like this pinpoints specific neighborhoods that we have in existence. So, for example, Eagle Park would not exist under this type of zoning. I think Eagle Park's a nice neighborhood. And so when everybody up here is telling me, all I hear is this, this, and this, can anybody here tell me one person from Eagle Park advocating for this change? Can anybody tell me one person in Belmont who lives in any of these neighborhoods who likes the small side yards? One person's name in the whole city of Belmont who lives in any of these neighborhoods Or are we just gonna look for a handful of people that live in other neighborhoods telling us how to live in these neighborhoods? I'm fine with this change, but I'm just confused on who's making the decisions here. Is it people rolling up from McLean in their big houses saying, we don't like Hawthorne because the lot size is too small? Is it, we don't like your neighborhood, Mark, because we don't like the plastic vinyl siding versus brick? Or we don't like Adams Bluff because they jammed the homes up too close? I mean, it's part of this diversification that I think appeals to multiple generations. I mean, if you can only buy a $500,000 house with certain setbacks, you're really pushing out everybody out of college. That's why you have apartments, so people can kind of have a whole phase of life here. I just, like I said, I'm fine with this text amendment if that's how we want to move forward. When's it gonna stop with a certain group of people telling everybody else what kind of home they have to live in? I mean, it just seems like they're not even worried about their own homes, they're just worried about other people's homes. Like they're somehow offended by Eagle Park. Like it somehow offends them that somebody wants to live in a $400,000 house on a postage stamp lot with no side yard. I, for one, would never do it. I have a heck of a lot of friends that do. And you know what? If they don't like it, they just move across the street to, what's that place called? Glenmere. I mean, 3 people have moved there over the last couple of years and said, I think we need more Glenmeres. But like, you can't just wipe out a whole segment of what people like. And so I'd be real cautious about just tacking on to conform into what we think up here is what everybody wants. Because what we think up here everybody wants shouldn't matter. It should be what people who are buying homes want. They should be allowed to buy a house that fits their lifestyle. And so that's where I'm at on this. I wish we had an opportunity to meet with the people at Laurel Walk and to meet with the people at Eagle Park and find out what appeals to them. I mean, the newspaper article said the lady really likes the fact that she got to know all of her neighbors. She likes the fact that she doesn't have to cut her yard. I mean, we've heard that from our city manager. I mean, it's very obvious that in a neighborhood like Eagle Park, you're gonna meet your neighbors a lot faster than you are in McLean. I mean, there was a picture on the Eagle Park Facebook page showing all these bicycles piled up in somebody's yard. Has anybody had that in their neighborhood anytime soon? I doubt it. It just doesn't happen whenever you space these homes out. So I'm not saying one's right or wrong, but I don't think we're in a position to keep dictating how everybody else chooses to live. And for us to sit here and say, we think your homes are too close together, that's pompous. But like I said, if you want to move forward with this, let's move forward with it. I know that a lot of work went into it. I don't think it's a huge deal. I certainly have heard a lot more people who don't like it than people, like nobody's lined up here advocating for this. So I'm happy to move forward. I just don't know who we're trying to help here. Like, who are we trying to help? Like, who wins in this? Is it the other people who live in the other neighborhoods saying, yeah, we win because now we're going to have this neighborhood and stuff. I don't get it, but we can move forward. But I would push back about just adding arbitrary feet at this point.
I agree with some of what both of you all say. I don't disagree with a lot of what Richard says, and I echo Martha that I think this amendment is a step in the right direction. Again, I feel that the concerns that prompted this deal with alley-loaded lots, and that's where we seem to be a bit narrower than other jurisdictions, and so that's why I support this amendment. But I'm a bit reticent at this point, based on what staff and the subcommittee of the Planning Board have researched and presented. I'm not a planner. That's not what I do for a living, and I'm a bit hesitant to just add arbitrary feet without having it vetted and understanding the consequences of what that decision is going to be, both pro and con. Now, might we end up there eventually? We could, and that might be something, the discussions will continue, but I don't think I'm ready to go to that point today, and I'm happy to proceed with what, reflects, I think, our concerns and take the step it sounds like we're in favor of, and so that's why I think what we have before us is a step we should take today, and perhaps down the road we'll end up.
I mean, of course, I will support this because something is better than nothing, but incrementalism is what brought us here. And I guess what I'm hearing is incrementalism will lead the way out if we so choose.
I don't disagree with a lot of what Ryan's saying, but he wants to point toward individual people who have said something. You know, I might counter that through the election, you know, people said what they wanted. I mean, we had that discussion regarding apartments going to the boulevard, you know, and we said, well, we feel like the people have spoken and elected people who were speaking to what they wanted. You know, I could go out and poll people individually, or I could look at the rhetoric during the election and the results and also draw some conclusions from that. You know, I don't think it's as dire as, you know, you're worried about the effect. Again, we're talking 3 feet, you know, where we've gone, if 11 feet is okay, we've gone 12, and if people on planning and zoning are satisfied with that, I feel like the sun will come up tomorrow just as it did today. I feel if we go to 15, there's a very good chance the sun will also rise tomorrow. I just don't think that if we are going to move in that direction, why not do it at once? Why not take a step? I mean, like I said, I will support this because something's better than nothing, but, you know, I just feel like we should separate these houses. And again, that is a feeling, and it is based on personal opinion, but it's also anecdotal. I've talked to a lot of people about this issue. People have talked to me about it.
Are any of them people that live in any of these neighborhoods?
You know what?
I think that's a fair question.
It is a fair question, and a lot of it, I interact with folks online, and people have sought me out and called me that I don't necessarily know, and to try to rattle off who it was at what time, I can't do it. But I have had those conversations. You know, if I thought about it, I probably should have kept a register of notes about who I talked to and when and what their thoughts were, but, you know, I didn't.
I mean, I don't think it's necessary to name names.
I wouldn't be comfortable doing
Yeah, I
that
know,
either. If they wanted
you
to
know,
be.
I think it might lead people to be reticent to speak with us if people are gonna be called. I mean, I understand Ryan's question, but whether
The
we
point was
need
the
to-
city manager recommended that we go and talk to people that live in these neighborhoods, and we decided not to do that.
Well, that was more in connection with the,
COVID.
no, it was more in connection with the apartment issue than the side setback issue, I thought, but, in any event, I understand what you say about incrementalism, but I just think that I can come up with a number too, and I wanna understand, you know, the information, behind it, before I just pick a number at a meeting. That at least to me is what I'm more comfortable with. I want, you know, and sometimes it might not be possible. I know I've made that point before too. Sometimes if you just, you know, go back and forth, events overtake you, and sometimes you need to act based on the information that you have at the moment, and you can't wait until you have perfect information. But, you know, you might not have perfect information, but I'd at least like to have some information, and not act without any. But, you know, that to me is my fear, and why perhaps I'm more in favor of incrementalism. I just want to know, what the facts are before I choose a number.
Well, and I'll be quiet after this, but I would throw one thing out. You know, we have gone in our road widths, and we've allowed them to go to, I think the minimum is 22 feet. Now, if you allow someone who's developing property to build a narrow road at 22 feet, they're going to build that road at 22 feet. And you see, the problems are with the minimums, if they're not the correct minimum, is we have problems with on-street parking. In front of Belmont Central, we've got all kinds of problems with two-way traffic, so much so that we've had to redirect the traffic flow or stop the traffic flow in some direction. So, you know, when you set your minimums, there is cause and effect. And when we allowed 22-foot roads, the effect was they put down less asphalt, and we got narrow roads, which some people might say don't function properly. So when you set your minimums, I mean, think about what that means. I mean, you know, some folks are worried the sky's gonna fall in if you go 12, 15 feet, but, you know, again, I don't buy that argument, but I guess that's the end of what I have to say on the issue. I'm ready to
Well,
vote.
we can hear from the other side.
I think when we went on this tour, I mean, we were looking at the neighborhoods and stuff like that, and that was one of the things that came up. the fact that a lot of the houses were too close together. And I think that's why we decided on the adjustments that we had. Not right, Shelley? So,
Yeah, I mean, to Richard's point about incrementalism, I think if we're going to, space them out, I think, we should try to, rather than doing it a piece at a time, my preference would be to just kind of try to get to the end goal in one go, rather than just doing it, one at a time. But, I guess my view on this is that, I like the diversity of housing that Belmont has. I think that's actually one of our strengths. You've got the Eagle Parks, you've got the Belmeads, you've got the Glenmears, we've got a little bit of everything. My interest in this, I guess, comes from just ensuring that we continue to have that diversity. It seems like the trend in development lately is just kind of figure out how to squeeze as much as you can onto a given property. So the way I come at this is not so much as like trying to tell people what kind of house they need to live in, but to make sure that we continue to have different types of housing available for people to live in, so that if we set our minimums appropriately, we've got houses that are spaced out for the people that want them spaced out. But then we also have, the conditional zoning process for those developments that need to be a little bit tighter together for people who want that kind of housing. I just I guess my view on this is that the setbacks that we put out are kind of more of the, I guess, our signal to the development community of what we expect to see in Belmont. And, this is what we want it to look like. This is kind of what our community is. So, I guess my concern would be if we set our setbacks too small and then we, beat up a developer for having his houses too close together. That's not really fair to them. And it creates a lot of, I think, unnecessary conflict for us. So that's kind of why I'd kind of prefer to go wider, just to simply, because I think that's generally where a lot of our, where I guess a lot of the issue is just the spacing. So making sure that we get that right, I think, is important in the first go. I also don't want to necessarily overburden the planning board either. I know we've put a lot on them in the last 6 months or so. So, to keep sending them stuff back, well, you think about this number versus that number versus this number, I think as the elected officials at some point, it's kind of on us to make a judgment call too. So
I think part of this is you look at making adjustments. We had Stowe Point and the houses along Stowe Road, here the people are still parking on the sidewalks. So we made an adjustment because we wanted to make sure it was a better situation. And that's kind of how I look at this. I think this is enough to suit me for now, to see if this is enough of an adjustment. And once again, if it's not, then we can certainly look at it later. So I don't, I think we've got to be reasonable. And I think at this point, this seems like a reasonable choice to me.
I think we're in agreement on a lot of things. Where we disagree, I think it's just a matter of degree.
yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it, at least based on what I'm hearing is,
We're just feet apart.
Literally.
you want to restate your motion if you want.
Well, we're at a public hearing, we have a motion on the floor to approve the amendments as presented and seconded by Martha. And is there any other discussion? Has everyone said their? All right, and I guess,
Okay with this?
well, we need to call for a vote.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries.
How did you guys vote?
That's public hearing, okay. Now, next item is consider the adopting an ordinance approving setbacks to amend chapter 4 of the Land Development Code, increasing the minimum side yard setback for single-family residential lots.
Oh, wait, we need to do a consistency statement too. So, I would move to find that the text amendment we just approved is consistent with the comprehensive land use plan, and specifically goal number 4, community character.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? One opposed, okay? Motion carries. Then,
Now,
consider the adoption of the ordinance approving setbacks.
You're
Request of-
forward, you're forward.
Poll.
I'm like,
Doesn't matter.
Item number
We
four.
covered three.
You just adopted the ordinance, Mayor.
Yeah, the road forward.
Item number 4, McLean amendment. Request to amend the McLean master plan identifying 31.25 acres as a low-impact development area similar to phases 1 and 2 of the South Shore location, west side of South New Hope Road between South Carolina State Line and Seven Oaks Trailhead.
Thank you, Mayor.
We don't need to do a public hearing.
No.
This doesn't require public hearing.
This is a proposed amendment, 2013-06. Now, you may recall, this is, the McLean community was approved for mixed-use development back in November of 2013. And there was commercial components, civic components, as well as a residential component. The focus of this amendment is on the residential component. The McLean community was approved with basically two different types of subdivisions. I'll call it mixed lot sizes and product type. So within the community, there's identified 3 areas for single-family detached development. It was South Shore, West Shore, and East Shore. Now, 2 of these areas differed. The South Shore differs in infrastructure than West and East Shore, and I'll show you this in a minute. So, South Shore was approved as a low-impact development area for phase 1 and 2. And on the map in your packet, you see that that is the east side of the development, east of South New Hope Road. The infrastructure for low-impact development was no curb and gutter, it was a ditch cross-section, minimum disturbance of that area. The 2 other areas, the east and west shore, on your map, were more of what we would call the conventional areas. They were the smaller lots, curb, gutter, sidewalk, every amenity or infrastructure design that you would see in a more of an urban setting. So that was the east and west shore. The purpose of this amendment is to focus in on a 22-lot area called Catawba Creek. Now, if you can note on this map, it's identified as West Shore, which would mean that it would follow the infrastructure of curb, gutters, sidewalk, just as a conventional subdivision would be developed. However, if you look at this area, they are these large 1-acre lots or greater. It has a lot of environmental sensitivity in that area due to waterfront lots. It's sort of an isolated pod. Well, the developer submitted the plan, construction plans for this area, and that's when we discovered that it was identified as part of the West Shore, which meant that it should have conventional infrastructure. Speaking with the development team, they indicated, well, no, this particular area was always planned to be developed similar to South Shore Phase 1 and 2, with a low-impact design, where 1-acre lots are greater, it all has waterfront, and so forth. So the applicant is requesting to modify the zoning master plan for the community to identify this area, which we refer to as Catawba Creek, as a low-impact design area. Again, the reasoning is to support the large lot design and respect the environmental sensitive areas of the waterfront area within that acreage. And here is a modified map. You can see, instead of just calling it South Shore Phase 1 and 2, they're calling it a low-impact design, and they're proposing, again, that Catawba Creek be modified to be identified as a low-impact design area as well. So staff has reviewed this and supports the amendment. Again, this is a separate community with 22 lots. They're all 1 acre lots or greater, and they're all waterfront lots. So with that, we ask that you receive this report and recommendation regarding the amendment. And I believe Stephen Hinshaw is here to speak to this code.
Shelley, before we get into that, will you just explain for the benefit of the council and the public, kind of when you have a conditional zoning district, how much of that you have the authority to approve changes to, and kind of what the ordinance says, and why this is coming to the council and not just to you or not to the planning board?
Absolutely. So with the conditional zoning, there is a certain level of modification that can be approved administratively, and some that require to come back before council. If there's a modification in circulation, or they've added more land, or wanting higher density and so forth, then those items need to come back to the council. This is brought back because the proposed roadway design is different than what was adopted. It was approved in an area identified as the West Shore, which should be curb gutter and sidewalk. Although we may concur that maybe it's just a mistake, it needs to come back to council for consideration.
And if it were more intense changes, it would have to go to the planning board before coming.
Yes, I'm sorry. And again, if they want to add more density or more land to it, and there's a higher level in which it has to go through the whole conditional process, again, which would require public hearing and public notification. This is sort of in the middle. It's higher than administrative, but it does not require the public hearing process. It can come straight to council.
Any discussion?
What, Shelley, when there's 1 acre lots, just maybe in Belmont or else, do people usually have curb and gutter?
It depends where it is. In more of an urban or suburban setting, there would be curb and gutter. A lot of the subdivisions we visited with half-acre lots, third-acre lots. When it gets more in the rural area, such as low on the peninsula, it's not unusual not to see curb and gutter, and especially in areas where there's a lot of topography and waterfront lots where you don't want the sedimentation to just go right into the river. You would want it to be absorbed in the open land, like the open ditches. So in areas like this with the larger lots, it is a more environmentally sensitive approach to let the runoff filter through the land before it reaches the river.
What about a future resident? How would they view the property, with or without?
Well, it's about choice. South Shore, those are all 1 acre lots and greater, $1 million homes in that area as well. They all have an open ditch, environmentally sensitive design, and are happy with their choice where they live. The smaller lots, we've learned many lessons with low impact development based on lot size. One example is Morgan Branch is a smaller lot, but they tried that low impact design. It doesn't work really in the smaller lot area. So ideally, it has to be set up in the right location with the large lots to get the full benefits of that design.
All right, so these lots are gonna remain their size, you're not gonna chop up into smaller lots?
It's a conditional zoning that identified a certain amount of lots at certain size in different locations. The only way they could be reduced to smaller lots is if it go back to a conditional zoning and start sort of fresh. But we mentioned that higher level of amendment that would require planning board and council, that would happen if they proposed to come back and do smaller lots. And you have decided on various amendments for South Shore, or for this development, that did include looking at lot reconfigurations, and it did go through the whole process. But in this area, they're wanting their lot. It hasn't gone through the process and able to let it have smaller lots.
And so, I mean, in the future, if this goes through, if they decided to go ahead and want to amend again and go to smaller lots, would they then be subject to the curb and gutter once again?
Staff would definitely recommend it. Again, it would go to the planning board and council for decision and consideration, and staff wouldn't support the low impact design for smaller lots.
Let me just ask you, I mean, because there's been, a few issues with, McLean, the Conservancy. When you say that a mistake was made, when was that made?
Well, I'll let Steve talk about that. The developers speak to that just because it, we were looking at the approval and different interpretation of what was approved.
Yeah, thank you all for letting me come here tonight to make this request. So, I'm Stephen Henshaw, that many of you are part of the development team at McLean. I'll keep this very brief. But to answer your question, Richard, this is really a corrective thing. If you look at the 2013 plan and then the 2017 plan that we came back with, you'll see that the lots in this area are of the same size and built of the lots in South Shore Phase 2. So it just happens to be on the other side of New Road. Our intent was always to develop these lots as low impact because it's our belief that it's more environmentally sensitive to the lake. We can save more trees. When we deliver these lots, we only clear that which is needed to clear for the roads. And then the builder and the homeowner come in and they purchase the lot and then they clear specifically for the house. So what you're left with is visually trees in the front yard that are mature, and then the home, and then trees in the rear yards. Well, trees on both sides of the house. I took some photos today of South Shore, just a couple of examples. Can I share these? Is that appropriate? And they're all, I think there's 2 or 3 of each. But this is, real time, sort of what a true low impact development lot finished product looks like. And that's the same thing we will achieve in the little Catawba Creek section. We're not asking for any increase in yield or density or, really the plan will be the same if we were to end up doing curb and gutter. The only difference is we'd have a lot more gray infrastructure, we do more clearing, and then ultimately we would be giving more infrastructure for the city to maintain long term. So all of these lots, as Shelley said, are, about an acre or more. They're all at least 100 feet in width. Some of them are 140 or 150 feet in width. It just lends itself to this low impact development style.
So can I ask you a question? Because something jumped out at me with photographs. We go over to Reflection Point and we walk a lot, and that's also on the water. It seems like they've got some kind of at least rolled curbing there. It's not curb and gutter, but they have something there.
Yeah.
Why do we not require that? I mean, that's also low impact, but it gives you some sort of edge from the road to the lawn.
I'm sorry, I'm unfamiliar with the design. I've been through Reflection Point, but it wasn't clear when the section plan went through, what was required. I thought it was approved by the county originally.
I was just noticing the difference is that the road here in these designs, road, yard. In Reflection Point, what I've noticed, it's road and kind of a half-rolled little seam there. which
Call it
separates.
valley curve, they call it valley curve.
Okay. I mean, that just seems to add a nice, but I mean, but that's not part of our requirement, I mean, it's,
Again, it depends, this development was approved in some areas with low impact development design detail. That means an open ditch, so you have a road, an open ditch, and then the private property. So all of the runoff goes into the ditch and the land and conveys it as well as absorbs any impurities that come off of the road. That is a certain design feature that falls under low impact development. A conventional design could have a standard vertical curve or a roll curve similar to what you're talking about. But that would just be, that is considered a conventional design of subdivision.
okay.
Thank you, Kelly.
We're gonna make a motion to.
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion that, we approve the, proposed amendment to the McLean Master Plan.
I'll second.
Second, all in favor, say aye. Okay,
That's a thing.
we're good. Next. On page, you're holding us. Coming up. There it is. Next item on the agenda. Morgan Branch. Amendment, request to modify the master plan to modify the approved trail system within the community, location Morgan Branch neighborhood.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, this is a proposed amendment of a conditional zoning master plan. The Belmon Development Group received approval of a conditional zoning district that authorized, they use the term light imprint design, which is similar to low impact development, LID. It's basically the same thing, which just means it was a community developed with minimum infrastructure with regard to no curb, gutter, sidewalk. However, in this development, it was proposed and approved to have some greenway trails throughout the community. This community is nearing build out, and staff has been working with their development team to inspect all of the trails and other infrastructure within the community. And what we have found is, I have been out there for hours with some of our inspectors walking the trails, and some of the trail segments, due to the topography and the grading, just do not make sense at that location. And speaking with the development team, they are asking the council to consider amending the trail system within the master plan. Some of the trails are proposed to be relocated to a better grade where it's easier to walk upon. Others are proposing to remove some segments of trails, and again, that's due to topography, some of the resulting grading, and speaking with them out in the field, they have offered the community lot 125, which is a 10,000 square foot lot, as a future dog park for the community. And while talking with some representatives of the advisory board, they were really in favor of this, and we've asked the development team to actually build it for the community, which is part of the offer here tonight, is they're asking for a modification of the master plan, and to help mitigate that, they're proposing to offer building this future dog park for the community. And I'm sorry, I should have pointed out that at your table, they have a full set of construction plans, detailed construction plans, but what you'll It identifies some sections to be removed. There's also, I've asked them to identify areas where we've asked them to enhance the trail system, such as putting in a culvert in certain areas or a small pedestrian bridge. The proposed dog park, you can see where the star is on this plan, up on the screen. They're proposing to go ahead and fence it in for the community, and put up some signs and text stations, as part of this proposal. So again, I've walked the trail a couple of times. I've really tried to evaluate, areas that maybe can be modified to achieve the trail, and it would be a maintenance problem with some areas for the homeowners association if they were to take it over. So in some cases, it just makes sense to eliminate a certain segment, but there's enough connectivity throughout there to still make it a connection. So this was sort of on the border on what could be approved by staff, and what should come to council. Staff has chosen to bring this to council because the development was such that it did not have a sidewalk network within it. And so we thought the trail system was very important to the community. We felt it was important enough that we wanted to bring it to the council to consider it and share their offered mitigations as well. There was a letter received from a representative of the advisory board in support of the proposed modification. It was received in an email today. I believe I heard it. So it's from Julie Miller, and she was out with the development team and staff while we were inspecting all of the greenway. And she indicates in this letter, my name is Julie Miller, I'm an advisory board member from Morgan's Branch. We are aware of the proposed change to the greenway trail made due to extreme slopes and the proposal to add a dog park for the community. As a member of the advisory board, I support the change for the benefit of the community. So that was received via email this afternoon.
Thank you, Shelley.
I certainly think in view of the time you spent, we would trust your judgment in this situation. My only question is there any part of this proposal that you're uncomfortable with?
Yeah, we walked the trail for a couple hours, 2 or 3 times with the field inspectors for the city as well. And we are in support of this. We really sort of pushed them as far as we could on having them build pedestrian bridge and so forth, going above and beyond for the trails that are staying. And then the fact they're willing to build the dog park for the community, and it's not just a piece of land that's left there for the community to maintain. They're leaving it in a functional manner that they support the dog park.
So who's going to maintain this park? Is
The
it
dog park?
The HOA or the city?
The homeowners association ultimately would maintain it. It would be considered open space, same as the trail location, so it all come under the homeowners association.
What's the topography of the lot? Is it flat?
Yes, it is fairly flat. There's a few base slopes, but for the most part, it is flat, yes.
All right, and what dimensionally is 10,000 square feet? I mean, is this room 10,000 square feet, or if you had to put a number, is
Let
it,
me see if they have.
100 feet
all
by?
down here. I think they do.
I mean, is it a good size?
Oh, yeah, it's a nice size. It's the size of a residential lot. Yeah. So, yeah, an acre is 43,000 square feet, so, let's see. It is 135 feet.
I could put 3 of my houses in
74.
Let me ask you one final question.
Yes.
The lady you just cited, she said she supports it as a member of the HOA
Yes.
board. does the HOA board in total support this?
The HOA board is still operated by the developer, the builder. So that means the community has an advisory board to the HOA because it has not been turned over to.
All right, so it's an advisory board?
Yeah, it's just an advisory board.
But I think what he,
The HOA, the developer and builder still has all the authority, the HOA plus the builder.
well, what he's asking, I think, and I sort of wondered the same thing, is she, whatever board she represents, is she speaking just on behalf of herself, or is she speaking on behalf of the entire
The
board?
way this is worded, she's speaking for herself, but I believe we have the builder's representative on WebEx who can share more information of how they interacted with the board. Would you feel right with the applicant?
Well, while you're trying to pull him up, I would just, the only reason I ask that is, without sidewalks in this community, like you said, these trails essentially are where they will get out and pick their kids and their strollers, et cetera. I mean, from my part, I mean, I do like the idea of the dog park if they like it, but I'm, also concerned that they've got a contiguous route that they can walk.
Well, let me ask, to piggyback on that, how much of the trail are they losing?
I'll let the builder, there's just small segments in different areas, and I have not calculated in total.
Will it still be?
But I was able to walk through the various segments continuously and come out to a road segment or something like that. So I got around this fine. Again, the segments that they're abandoning are like on the very top of a bank, walking the property line that really gets you there.
The road to nowhere.
Topography was not very good with it.
Right. And again, there's deep lowies, part of the segment. Again, they relocated some, which are identified in here, because the road was something that it would just get eroded away with the weather. The rain would wash out the trail. And our goal was to try to end with a greenway trail system that made sense, that could be maintained by the homeowners association, that wouldn't get washed away and become a problem. And the segments that are relocated achieve that. The segments that are proposed to be removed would be a problem for the HOA to maintain in the future.
Any pushback from, I don't know exactly where this lot is, but are there residents on either side? Does anyone push back against having a dog
Well,
park next door?
It's funny you say that, is we found more of the residents that were on each side of a proposed trail location they were more upset that a trail was going to be put there in the first place. Although it's common open space, they bought their lots knowing that the trail hadn't been designed yet. And some of the residents had put landscaping in the trail area. So we actually worked with the builder and the homeowners to maybe meander it a little bit to make the neighbors happy as well. The real steep segments, there are no homeowners in segments where it's real steep that you're proposing to remove.
Well, I mean, I can appreciate what you're saying about, people having trails pop up where they didn't expect them. But again, the homeowners directly adjacent to the proposed dog park, do they have any concerns or issues with that?
Let me take a look.
Because
I'm
that's
not
going
sure
to be a
that
fairly
house
large
is
amount of
built.
traffic and substance.
The dog park is located behind lot 122 and 123.
Can you pull that slide up?
Yes.
It looks like it's
On
across
the
the
north
street from
side.
houses, but beside the parking lot for the boat and RV.
But yes, it's surrounded
It's not
more by
that.
open space and,
Okay, so it's not above
It's not.
anybody's residence?
yeah, you can see the property to the north are just two lots where the star is, but otherwise it's surrounded by open space and
Shelley, this is Bill Rice, if you wanted to ask me any question.
About the
Oh,
advisory board?
Yeah, whoever is representing the homeowners, whoever that body is, we have a letter put in the record where someone is speaking for themselves who's on that board. The question being, how does the entirety of the board feel about this proposal of the dog park and the loss of the trail, part of the trail system?
Was that a question for me?
Yes.
There has not been an entire community-wide meeting about the trails. Most of the community, or a good segment of it, last year approached us and asked if the trail system could be eliminated. We advised them at that point after a meeting that the only way to do that would be to get, 80 to 100% of the community to vote to do away with it. And at that point, they realized that would probably be difficult to do, so they just relented and said, go ahead and put it in as called for. So in the process of having it staked out and installed is when we came across there being several locations that the steepness of the grade or the trail in one location was set to go across a 20-foot deep gully. So there was no way around that because the only alternative would be to run it up into the road right away where the mailbox kiosk was sitting. So we realized on our field walk that we could not do that. So we worked with Brent Cowan, one of the engineers that the company works with, to devise some alternative locations for sections of trail that weren't really designed to eliminate trail, but to relocate trail to locations that would give, areas that would be easier to walk on and not have a concern with people falling because it was too steep. So that was the main focus of the changes that were made. In doing that, a couple of locations, you didn't have any choice but to eliminate. There was no place else you could put an alternative and keep the trail system running as it was intended to do. So a couple of locations that just had to be eliminated were going down beside lot 115, which was an extremely steep slope going down to Duke Power right away. And then going across the rear of 121, that was on a very steep side slope that would be impossible to walk on. So if that section was being eliminated, then it didn't make sense to put the section of trail on 123 and 122 because it wouldn't be going anywhere but right into a bank. So at that point, we were in the field reviewing it, and the determination was made to go ahead and have the trail run into the lot 125 and convert lot 125 to a dog park for the community. We had two of the advisory board members with us at that point, on with Shelley and Kyle Woodson walking it, and so we had time to discuss that in the field. That was a well-received option to the two advisory board members. None of the other advisory board members have opted to weigh in, although they're aware of the change. We requested, from each of them, they were each provided the plan and the full letter that accompanied the plan on the submission. Everything we've heard from the two advisory board members we have been working with was that nobody had any problem with it, and nobody else went to the trouble to write a letter except to Julie. But I think the sections that have been eliminated have been eliminated for the benefit of the community in terms of not asking people to walk on something that potentially get hurt. We've flattened out some areas and added retaining walls to help flatten out certain sections of the trail so they were more navigable. We're adding through bridges, two across two little small creeks and one across a larger creek so that people have the ability to easily walk across those sections. And then a couple of other areas were just where once it was staked out, you could see on the ground that, if you just move the trail, a few feet in another direction, you could get off the side of a landscape slope that was going to become a hazard and a maintenance problem, and just move it up a little bit and get it onto flat ground. So in those situations, there was a net no loss of trail, just a simple relocation from what the original plan had called for. So our intent has just been, as we walked it, to end up with a trail that was more usable to the community than what was originally designed on a flat piece of paper.
All right, thank you for that.
Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the amendment.
I'll
Motion
second.
to approve, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Move on to the next item on the agenda, the facade enhancement grant application.
Good afternoon or good evening now, Mayor and council members. This is our first facade enhancement grant for this year. Kimberly and Rob Nawn recently moved to Belmont and purchased the little building at 6 Airline Street behind the Everyday Market and William Henry Salon to move their business to Belmont from Charlotte. And they had intentions of also renovating the building and adding a second floor to live in. They ran into a few problems there, so they found a house to rent and live in, and they actually found a building on Contiguous Street to house their interior design and cabinet building business. So they've rented 331 Contiguous Street. This is where Vinyl Heating and Cooling used to be, and they have found that this building fits their business perfectly. So they've decided to keep KBN Interiors at this location, and they're currently evaluating other options for their property on Airline Street for a build-out for a new business. So they've applied for a facade grant to improve the facade of the building that they're renting. They've been great for our community already. They've engaged our Main Street program. They've become a sponsor for one of our events. They received a $10,000 small business loan grant from you for their business, which they recently paid off in full. And so they're excited about getting started and doing some more renovation work on this property over in the River District. And so the building here at 331 Contiguous Street has been altered some over the years with the new brick facade. The sides have been painted. The facade was never painted. And so this is what it currently looks like from this street view coming down Catawba and then the other side. So you have an altered facade where the sides and the rear has been painted, but then the front was never painted. So they would like to really improve the look and the aesthetics and facade of the building. So they applied for a grant. The Main Street Design Committee and the Main Street Board unanimously approved the facade grant application, feeling that this would fit in with their desires to really enhance and upgrade the look of the River District. One technical question that came up during this process was about painting of brick that has previously not been painted. And so my response to that question was the Secretary of Interior standards, the SOI, they do not recommend painting historic brick that has never been painted. However, since this building has been altered, it is a newer brick facade that has been applied, and the bricks on the side that have been painted, so that really, like I said, it's been altered. So even though the building itself may meet an age requirement for a layperson to consider it to be historic, someone that, like me, who is SOI qualified, would look at this building and deem it not eligible individually to be listed on the National Register of Historic Places. Therefore, painting a facade like this that has never been painted would be okay. So the applicant is requesting a $2,500 grant to paint the facade of the building a white creamish color to match the sides that are currently painted. They are, so they've submitted all the quotes for that. They submitted the quotes for replacing the old metal door that's kind of beat up, and they're wanting to replace it with a nice solid wood custom door. It will be painted black. And so they would also like to paint all the trim work black, giving it a nice clean look. So that's the scope of work that has been submitted for the grant itself. So, so I'd like to show you two more pictures, though that doesn't really have any bearing on the grant, but as I mentioned, they found that the use of the KBN Interiors fits this space very nicely. If you haven't been in, I encourage you to stop by and say hi. So in the front part of the building on the left, they do have their design team, interior designers, and the warehouse in the back is where they have their showroom. And so I love to walk in there because it's really a nice place. And if you look for some nice furniture, they have some really beautiful furniture. So it's a really beautiful space. And I show you this because in my communication and dealing with Kimberly, she is an architect and interior designer. She's top notch, and so the build out of the interior of the space has been done nicely. So I fully feel that the exterior of the work, once she completes it, will be extremely high quality and really improve the facade and the look of this building in the River District, which is a primary focus of our Main Street Committee in really wanting to do more in the River District. So, so they, like I said, they requested $2,500 facade enhancement grant. And so any questions about the application itself or the scope of work?
I'm impressed with the inside.
It's a beautiful space, what they've done. They do high-end work, and I think we're very fortunate that they've moved their business to Belmont from Charlotte.
Well, it seems to me, and I might just be speaking for myself, that this is in line with what we spoke about during the workshop last month in terms of these applications, that they're not just replacing an awning, that they're actually doing, improving the building itself, which I think will improve the aesthetics of the area and, you know, that door that's not in very good condition. So, you know, I do think this is consistent with sort of the guidance that we gave regarding the types of applications we'd like to see for facade enhancement.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that, you know, this building is definitely needs a front, especially this little TLC.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's in East Belmont, I think is another plus, because
Yeah.
that area, I think, could benefit from a little bit more focus, stuff like this, so.
Could you imagine if the word got out and every business on that street wanted $2,500 to improve the front?
Well,
What a
there's a
great
$10,000 budget for this, right?
Yeah, that is true.
Okay, yeah.
We can hope.
What a great improvement it would be,
Yeah.
whether it be
Yeah.
metal awning or something else.
But be that as it may, I will make a motion to approve the facade enhancement
I'll
plan.
second.
Got a motion to second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. There you are. Thank you. Motion carries. Next brings us up to reports.
Thank you, Mayor. Beginning on page 83, you have 3 different draft minutes from meetings of your committees this past month. Environmental Sustainability Board met on November the 10th. Planning and Zoning Board met November the 19th. And the Historic Preservation Advisory Board met on November the 12th. So the draft minutes are there just so that you can see what they're discussing and working on. For the manager's report, I will note a couple of things. The last workshop, you said you did not want to have a workshop in December. This will be your final meeting for 2020. So we can put 2020 behind us finally. So your next meeting will be January 4th, 2021 at 6 p.m. here in this building. We do need to schedule the annual planning retreat. And we typically hold that in late January or early February. In talking with the mayor and trying to coordinate with the team that led the retreat discussion from the COG this year, to have them do that again next year, kind of a check-in, see how things are going. We would prefer to do that January 23rd and 24th, Friday evening and Saturday, same time that we typically do. Please let me know if that time works for you. Again, that's January 23rd and 24th.
And so what location are we talking
I'll
about?
just do it here.
Just leave it. Yeah, because I'm gonna have, we're gonna have foot surgery, so this will be comfortable for me to get in.
We have an ADA compliant way to get you in and out.
I'm gonna be on the knee walker again, so that's good.
You said the 23rd and the 24th?
Yes,
Yes.
Friday evening and Saturday.
22nd and the 20th? I don't know. I think the 23rd and the 24th is Saturday and Sunday, if I'm looking at my calendar.
Is it? Okay, so maybe 22nd and 23rd?
Yeah.
Second, 23rd, yeah. Friday, Saturday.
Yeah, 22nd, 23rd.
Okay.
Fun, seem to work for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll confirm tomorrow.
Y'all with them there.
Thank you.
And also, I've got a little update here about COVID. The restrictions are changing all the time, so just, sometimes with little notice, just we'll keep you abreast of what's going on there. We're following those rules here as a workplace. I did speak to Kitty Comstock today, and I haven't talked to her since COVID started. And she's with her age and underlying health conditions, she hasn't left the house much since March. So
Wow.
there are a lot of people out there like that. So that's why, as annoying as it is, we wear masks and stay apart and wash hands and all that stuff. But it was good to hear from Miss Kitty. It had been a while. She made up for the lost time, though. I can assure you. I can assure you of that. I emailed you, I think, 2 weeks ago, with a request from the mayor of Cramerton, Will Calvin, for a kind of a task force committee to study the health of the South Fork River, particularly with water quality and flood mitigation, particularly on the Cramerton side, but also the water quality, and really using the South Fork River as an amenity, because it does appear to be in pretty bad shape. So he is wanting a staff member and an elected official from Belmont to join staff and elected officials from Cramerton and McCannville and Gaston County and our federal delegation, as well as some nonprofits like the Copper River Keeper and the Copper Land Conservancy. So I've asked Kevin Kraus to serve as a staff member, because he was working on some of these issues when he was working in Cramerton. So he's familiar with the other side of the South Fork, and he's familiar with our side as well. So if one of you would like to serve on that committee, I don't know when it's going to meet or how often it's going to meet, but we'd like to have some representation from this board.
I'd be interested in doing that.
Good. Thank you, Martha.
And then we'll just report out to the rest of the council. It's 9 o'clock, so I'll go briefly, but I did want to even though this year has been horrible and challenging, and we haven't been able to meet like we wanted to, and we've done all the COVID restrictions and everything else we've had to deal with, we have accomplished several things that I'm really proud of. Number one is this building. We finally got into this building, and we're working on the heating and air and audio and visual and everything else. So it's December, so it's gonna be cold. So we wanted to get that good, authentic winter feeling tonight. But this has been a long time coming. You asked us to really invest in transportation infrastructure, pedestrian infrastructure, so we did replacement. I hate David's already left, but this was a project that he's been talking about for a long time. Replacing the section of sidewalk on South Main Street, and then adding a new section from Belmont Reserve down to Dogwood Lane, and that's been well received. Preston Wilson was the contractor on that, and he said that the folks that lived there were very accommodating. They were excited about having the sidewalk there. They let them park vehicles in their yards, and they were really thrilled with it. So that's heavily utilized, and that'll be extended across the Tower Crest property as it is being developed now. We did the Julia Avenue culvert replacement. That was inconvenient having Julia Avenue closed, but it was quicker to do it this way than to wait for that culvert to collapse, and then to have an emergency situation. And it's cheaper to do these things ahead of time. So I appreciate Jerry and Chad and the team getting on that one. We put in the generator for the Belmont Abbey booster station to help make sure that we have fire protection and water for Belmont Abbey in that area. So working with water and sewer infrastructure. Part of the Tower Crest was a second water connection for the standpipe there on Oak Street, if you approved. And you may remember we had a couple council meetings earlier in the year to talk about this satellite utility garage there at Gaither Road. You approved that, and we got that built. That turned out to be a really nice addition. And hopefully it's a good neighbor to the folks that live in the Gaither Road area. In addition to doing this building, Chuck was able to get the renovations done to the water treatment plant, which is something we've been talking about for 20 years at least. He got that done quickly and on budget. I had a really good contractor for that. So that's a much needed thing to bring that area of the water treatment plant into compliance with state regulations, but also to give our staff a little bit nicer place to work for the 100-year-old building. And something we've also talked about for a long time is our second city bus. So we did purchase that. We had it wrapped with our new branding. We took it out for a spin back, I guess, in October, we said, with our tour of Belmont. It's upstairs if you want to go sit on it and look at it. We can't go on trips yet, but it's there.
Put it on blocks.
Yeah. So that's going to be a really nice amenity for our programming as we move forward after COVID restrictions are over. And then Phil just reminded me about all the work that we did back in March and April to keep the lights on in Belmont. Responding not only to the health pandemic, but the economic crisis when everything was shut down. I remember walking down Main Street in the middle of March, late March, and it was just a ghost town. And it looked like a movie set. It was beautiful, the flowers were blooming, weather was great, there was nobody there, and all the business was shut. So hats off to the Main Street program and the city council for letting us kind of take some risk, and particularly with those emergency loans. And I appreciate Mark, kind of pushing us to do that really quickly, and let's find out how we can get that done. And you all took a risk letting us help our businesses. There are several towns that asked how we did it, and so we were really in awe. We went out there, but that was a risk that we took. I think most of them have paid it back or have plans to pay it back. They had 12 months interest free. So that was just really good. And then one certainly highlight for me for this year was that Sunday afternoon when it was blazing hot at the police department. We had the Black Lives Matter event in March that could have been a different situation had the chief not invested some time talking with the leadership of that group, and it ended up being just, and y'all were there, it was just a very positive thing, and it's just how we do things in Belmont. It's a little bit different than how other people do things, and I appreciate your leadership on that. but all the hard work of the council and the staff in our community this year. Be glad to put 2020 behind us. So, thank you.
We're very blessed, to have the people we have in leadership positions, as well as the council. We're very blessed. A lot of communities would love to have what we have.
And complain when they don't. That's all that I have, Mayor.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and get on to any other business that we have. Mark, we'll start with you.
Sure, okay. I just have two things. One, I just wanted to comment on the Christmas parade. I thought that went off really well. Just like to thank the chamber and the staff and the police department, everybody who was involved with making that happen, especially in a way that I think was safe and respectful of all the social distancing rules and whatnot. The DJ in particular, I thought was a really nice touch. Having the music downtown was nice. And downtown actually looks fantastic. The mall ornaments and stuff that you guys put out look really cool. I think that we're actually probably, McAdenville might think differently, but I think we probably got the most Instagrammable city in Gaston County. So, I think as far as like doing things differently and kind of thinking outside the box, especially with the Christmas stuff, I think we're really knocking it out of the park.
That was a great parade.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
It was.
I feel like a
So many
lot of
cars.
stuff this year we kind of had to compromise and whatnot, but it didn't really feel like a compromise, aside from kind of getting a little cold sitting in the back of a pickup truck. But, I'm happy to do that if people can have their Christmas parade, so I will put that out there for my public service. And then the other thing, I know we talked about code enforcement a few months ago. It'd just be nice maybe to get a check-in, maybe in January, about some of the open cases we've got. I literally had, I mentioned this to you, I had somebody pull me on the sidewalk and ask me about code enforcement case. So it might just be good to kind of get an update on where some of those are and if we can expect anything to come through for action in the next few weeks or months. That's it.
Welcome.
I agree about the parade. I think it was really neat because I think it was a two-way parade because the kids thought they were part of the parade since they were moving, so I thought that was really great. 3 items for staff. One, if you guys would look at golf carts and our rules and regulations, because I've seen more out there decorated for Christmas in the dark, and I think they're probably not registered, and they probably need to do something to educate people about the rules. Also, as we're looking at high density, I think, and I'm not sure where we are with this, but parking insets like we have on the cloud, we need to look at those and make sure that we have that where we need to, because that's going to be, I think, a continued concern. The other thing is on our water bills, I'm not sure whether we should have our new logo or whether that's an official document. So think about whether we should amend and maybe look at whether we switch that back. I'm not saying that we have to, I think it's just something we need to look at. But that's all for me.
I just want to, again, reiterate how much I appreciate the staff that we have, and also the department heads that we have, just do such a great job for the city of Belmont. We really appreciate that. Buck, you too, way in the back there, I don't know if you can hear me or not, but just a great zip. Everybody does a tremendous job. We appreciate it greatly. Jim?
Well, I'll begin with, I've got a score update from the NFL. Washington football team 23, Steelers 17. Did you know that, Ryan?
I'm aware.
Yeah. I just want to make sure, as my public servant.
I might have had a minute to check in.
What
Yeah.
quarter are they in?
It's done, it's fine. I echo what has been said about the parade. It was one of the few uplifting things that seems to have happened lately. I thought that was just a really good job and an example of how we can, instead of just, let's just cancel everything, let's just give up, let's, being creative, and I think everyone, certainly, I think a lot of us were surprised by how many cars there were, and I think that everyone just wanted a chance to have something to feel good about and be a part of, so I guess we shouldn't have been surprised by that. But Mark mentioned code enforcement, and I agree. I'm interested to see, I know we were sort of going back to the drawing board with those two houses on Morning Glory and Todd, but they were in really bad shape, so, I would assume that the process has progressed somewhat. The place in North Belmont, it's a subject of litigation now, apparently, but there's still progress being made, and of course, the card reader facility on Wilkinson as well, those being the four, I think, that are the big ticket items. Certainly, I echo what everyone has said about the staff and what talented employees we have working for the city. Sometimes I don't know if we express that well enough in terms of the job that they're doing and the talent and skills that they bring to their job. And, especially, I know they're not here, but thanking David and Chuck. And I'm sure it would have had a nice reception for them if things had been normal, and maybe perhaps we can at some point. And then finally, this seems to be a consistent subject, but leaves. It's easy not to speak anecdotally because I sit in my home office at the front of the house and have a view of the street all day, every day. So I'm pretty sure that there have been no leaf pickups at all in my neighborhood. And some of the neighbors have said, well, there's a document from the city that says it's supposed to be like every other week with your recycling pickup. And that I'm positive that has not been done in my neighborhood. I don't think there's been a truck to pick up leaves at all. And some residents are posting on Facebook today that they call and they say, well, this is what is posted, and they can't even get the Waste Pro individuals to acknowledge that it's their recycling week, let alone that they're going to send the truck by to pick up leaves. And I know we've heard it before, and I know the contract's coming up, but this is just another example of the frustration. Even my neighbors said, as I was raking leaves today, when do they pick up? And I said, your guess is as good as mine. I'm just raking them all here, and someday they'll pick them up. And as Richard has pointed out, they might pick up my side of the street one day, and yours 4 weeks later. I do hope that, I know there's going to be a lot of components into these new contracts or however we do it, but I do hope that we can at least have a schedule so that people have some general idea of, well, I should probably rake my leaves to the curb now, otherwise I'm going to miss out. I just like schedules and certainty. But that's my other business.
And if there's any consolation, the Detroit Lions won this weekend.
Well, that's a consolation to me.
Richard?
I guess for the most part, I want to echo what everyone has already said. Again, I would like to thank David Eisenhower, Chuck Flowers for their service to the city. They've been always Johnny on the spot, responsive, and gotten out there and have done what needs to be done to keep this city running. So, I really appreciate their service. To that point, I would like to note their fast action on Dogwood Lane. We had another tree fall, which took out all the power lines, including a transformer, and we had hot lines dancing on our street for about a half hour. So they got out there really quickly and put up barricades at both ends, having to go through Glenmere at the other end to bring them in on foot, I think, to keep people from heading towards those wires. That evening, late into the night, they had the plow truck out clearing the road. So when the lines were backed up, people could get out again. Because on Dogwood Lane, it's not uncommon if you're at the lower end to get trapped on Dogwood. So I appreciate that. And again, thanks to everyone involved with the Christmas parade. I wasn't sure what it was going to look like or how it was going to come off, but it was a success. So I appreciate that. And one thing I did notice, I was standing next to Councilman Heffernan the whole time, and he got that legal wave down. And he did that for 90 minutes, and I thought that was very impressive.
Like a carpal tunnel.
You know, and I don't know who to thank for this, but there's been a tree that's been a great concern at, across from Nichols, I think that's the AT&T building. It's gradually been leaning toward the road and was entangled in our wires. And we've been trying to get that thing cut down for years, and they finally, I went by there one day and they had a crane out, and they were actually taking that tree down. And I don't think it was a question of if it was gonna fall, it's just when.
When it was gonna fall.
And who was at that intersection at that unfortunate time.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. That took care of a problem before it became a bigger problem. Councilman Heffernan spoke to Waste Pro. You know, they were great initially. And, you know, I hate to speak ill of someone who's not here to defend themselves, but we've contracted with them to do a job, and we give them fair compensation to do that job. And I don't think that they're hitting their marks as they should. So I think we need to get a handle on Waste Pro. And I know that you brought it up, and I've mentioned it in the past, and I will say, I've lived in Belmont for 30 years. When leaf collection was in-house, this town was spotless. That truck would hit, the Dogwood Lane along with Ferris, some other roads are very heavy for leaf collection. That truck would be there twice a week. You know, we have a narrow road, and when everybody would put their leaves in the street, the 2-lane road became a 1-lane road. And, you know, to that end, I would say that nobody will clean your house like you will. So I know that you mentioned looking at bringing it back in-house. I'm very much supportive of that, because I think it's something we need to take a look at. That's all I want.
Yeah. Ryan?
I thought we had a pretty good year. I know there's been a lot of adversity, but I think Belmont's in a good position financially. I think our parks are in the best shape I've ever seen them. Streets are coming together, staff's coming together. So I have a pretty positive attitude. You know, adversity is certainly here, and people often say, I guess it builds character, but I think it certainly revealed it here with our business community and our staff and stuff. I'm excited to go forward towards 2021, but I'm not all that. I don't think it's going to transition quite as fast as we would like. So hopefully everybody stays happy and healthy and safe. And if you need anything, let me know.
Like I said, after the Lions went 0-16, it can't get any worse.
And another expression is too, is when the going gets tough, the tough get going.
That's right.
We've done it all. Very good. All right, we have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.